Yo, what is going on, everybody? And welcome back to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. I am your host, as always, the dad bod god, the bald, the beard, the fucking beautiful Piers Austin. And tonight, my guest is the one and only executive David Streamer. I'm excited to have David on. He's one of the newest members of the PWA roster. So you know he's got the skills to pay the bills in the ring and on the mic. And he's also got an MBA, so you know he ain't no dummy. But before we bring out Mr. Streamer, let's take a quick pause for that fucking cause and thank some of those amazing sponsors and help keep the lights on up in this bitch every single week. First off, ladies and gentlemen, is Sleeps.com. That's SLEEFS. Now, Sleeps is your one-stop shop for all your athletic wear. So if you have an athlete in your life or you're an athlete yourself, this is the place for you to go. They've got armbands, compression pants, compression shorts, headbands, boots, mouth guards, and they've even got those dirty boxes you always hear me raving about, guys. Their dirty boxes are absolutely friggin' amazing. They stay fresh, they stay dry, and they have some funky fucking designs at the front. So go and check out Sleeps.com and those dirty boxes. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Next up is healthvape.com. Now, Health Vape is your healthy vaping alternative, guys. If you or someone you know is one of those filthy fucking cigarette smokers or filthy fucking vapors, you need to get them on the Health Vape. All of their products are no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals, and they are vitamin infused. Guys, they help restore your energy while giving you the vital boost you need to get through your fucking day. So go and check out healthvape.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Now, guys, there's a lot of big changes coming to the MWA Podcast Network. There's a lot of changes coming for me, the dad bod god. There's a lot of changes coming to the podcast, Shooting the Shit Uncensored. Make sure you tune in live on Friday night. I'm going to go live, and I'm going to let you all know what's going to be happening and what is in store and what changes are coming. But, guys, until then, sit back, relax, pour yourself a cold one, crack yourself a stiff one, and hell, if you roll that way, roll yourself a green one, sit back and relax and enjoy my conversation with David fucking Streamer. Yeah. Boom, and we are live with David Streamer, who is having connection issues. Will be with us in just a moment. But guys, thank you for tuning in, everybody. We're really excited to have you all here with us. We are going to get into my conversation with David Streamer in just a few moments. We are waiting for him to come on. He's sitting in the back. We have gone live. We're ready to go. As always, Shooting the Shit Uncensored. Shit can happen. Sometimes connection issues happen. Very rarely that they do, but we got him here right now. David fucking Streamer in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hear it for David fucking Streamer.
Let's hear it for me and my boomer level internet capabilities, Piers. Yeah, it's not playing nice with me today. So hopefully it sticks this time and we won't be interrupted again.
I was gonna say, man, long time no see, bro. But look, we'll get into it, man. But
let's pretend we haven't done this for 10 minutes already and had to start from scratch.
Exactly, bro. Technical issues, right? But dude, like, you're one of the newest members of the PWA roster, like officially, I think now. Like, I think you finished like the Green Dingo stage.
Yep.
You now got your gimmick. And I actually believe I commented on your first match as the executive, right?
Yep, that's right. The Ricky South match at the Academy show. That was my graduation day match from the Green Dingoes. So that was the first outing as the executive in PWA. But we did have a little alpha test of the character up at Newcastle Pro Wrestling at their Hoose show, which is like their Academy show. So it got some good responses there. So I had the confidence going into the PWA show with Ricky that the character has a bit of legs to it and it would get over well. So yeah, that was the first PWA outing, and you had the pleasure of calling it.
I did, mate. I did. It was definitely a pleasure, man. To me, honestly, I love the gimmick, and I said before, I fucking popped for that shit. When I first saw you come out, I thought it was great. But as far as like the gimmick goes, like what you envisioned it to be, is that like what we have seen, or did you envision it to be something completely different?
It's relatively close to what I envisioned it to be. So the idea was to be that um, cocky, arrogant business kind of guy who really just reminds you of your dickhead manager at work who you've spent Monday to Friday, 9 till 5, grinding your teeth at every time he sends you an email or every time he calls you into a meeting. You just want to hit him in the face. That I want to remind you of him when you come to a wrestling show. You come there to relax and chill out, and I just want to send you straight back to work and make your life a misery. So that's the general gist of the character, and it's pretty much panned out as I hoped it would, and it's gotten over well as I hoped it would. So yeah, we'll keep on moving forward with this and see where it goes.
Like the character itself, is it based on like a real life boss that you've had, or like someone because it's like I think everyone's had one of those bosses, right, at some stage.
Yeah, it's no one in particular. It's just an amalgamation of all of my own personal frustrations with my 9 to 5 job that I manifest outwardly as this character. Yeah, over the years, I've come across some, cocky, arrogant bosses, some who are completely clueless, yet, are in charge. So you've got to do what they say. So, I'm just taking out all of my frustrations on the fans as the character.
Yeah, because it's so interesting, because it's like, for me, like this type of character, like we really haven't seen anything like what I think IRS back in the 90s. You could
Yeah.
probably compare it, but it's completely different because you're not like attacks a guy or an
Yeah,
accountant.
I tried to stay away from being the boring accountant like he was. It's just sort of the guy who just throws all the business jargon at you, the kind of person you hear on those motivational podcasts talking about how well their startup business is doing, and it makes you want to hate them so much. So yeah, I just throw out all of the big words that people don't understand and make them hate me for it.
What, like, as far as the character goes, though, like, for yourself, when you sort of like, you mentioned to me before that, you came up with this character, right? So, when you're coming to that stage of like Green Dingo up until like, all right, now it's time to sort of branch off into something else. Like, are you bouncing ideas off people? Or are you like, no, you got like, wait till you see what I got? Like, are you going to like people you're training with and coaches and stuff and like saying, hey, look, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm thinking. And are you getting that sort of like feedback, or just sort of bouncing?
Yeah. So people had seen glimpses of the character at training. We do promo class nights roughly once a month. We do them where that's your chance to throw some stuff at the wall and see what sticks. So everyone comes up with their own character ideas and gives them a road test in front of all the fellow trainees. There's no judgment there, so you can get as crazy and wacky as you want, and we'll give you some honest feedback about it. So yeah, ever since, in the early days when I started the MBA, that was the path I was heading down as the dickhead business guy. And it was pretty different to what everyone else was doing. And it seemed to get some good traction and some good reactions from everyone else at training. So once it came time to debut a character, it was already pretty much not fully rounded, but I had a solid idea of who he was going to be and how we was going to get across to the fans, and so I'd had some positive feedback, so I had the confidence that it would work fairly well.
You mentioned doing promos at promo class in front of the other trainees. I'm just speaking from non-experience here, but tell me, to me, I feel like that would be the most intimidating thing to do in front of like your peers, coaches, and stuff like that, than doing in front of like a room full of like a few hundred people, right?
Yeah, 100%. Is definitely an intimidating thing. You've come.
We're having connection issues with Mr. Streamer. I'm sure he'll be able to sort that out very soon. Yeah, are you back with us?
Oh, we're back. We're back, I think. Yep, there was a brief little spinning floating wheel there. Internet, man. Anyway, so yeah, it's very intimidating going up in front of people, throwing out your own personal ideas that you've been mulling over for months and months and months, and you're just hoping and praying that people will respond positively to them.
Yeah.
But luckily for me, doing the MBA stuff at the same time, I was used to getting up in front of classrooms full of 60 plus people and having to run through financial data and give reports and economic analyses on the projects that I was working on. So I had that sort of confidence that I knew I could get up and speak in front of a crowd confidently. It was just a matter of, will they like what I'm telling them as the businessman, and will they respond positively to it? And luckily they have.
Dude, like you mentioned doing an MBA, bro, and I said this to you before, like more people fail an MBA than pass it. Like I looked at doing one a few years ago and I was like, fuck this, nah, I'm done. Yeah, there's no way I'm going to commit to that. But what was the main like driving reason for you to go and do an MBA?
Oh, it was mostly, a personal career thing. My 9 to 5 job was getting, a little bit stale, and was looking at options elsewhere. So I figured I wanted to pad my resume with something a bit more substantial in the qualifications. So yeah, I made the decision to go get another degree, and it ended up being an MBA because, the old adage goes, those who understand money make the most money. So that's why we work, don't we? Is to make the cash. So chose the MBA degree and started it, only a couple of months after I started the training at the academy. So that was a very intense couple of years, where I was working a full-time job, 9 to 5, then going straight into the campus to do a night class, and then on the nights where I didn't have a class or a group project to work on, I was at the academy learning how to wrestle at the same time.
My God, how did you juggle both of those? Like, was there ever a point where you're like, something's got to give, like I've got to give up one of these things?
Yeah, there were many like breaking points along the way where I thought maybe it's time to have a break from wrestling. I definitely had the odd week off here or there when big projects were due. But no, I'm just too much of a stubborn asshole to give up on everything at once. So I just stuck my head in the sand and kept plowing through. So we made it through in 2 years, did a full-time course load with the degree, full-time job, and then somehow debuted before I even finished my MBA. It was like about 3 months before I finished, I got to debut as a dingo. So luckily I stuck with it.
Amazing. Give him a round of applause.
Oh yeah.
Dude, that is amazing. MBA and getting trained as a pro wrestler in the meantime as well. Man, that is the most unlazy motherfucking human being I can think of, bro, because I know how intense those courses are, and I can imagine how intense the training was. But like, obviously, like to become a pro wrestler, like big fan growing up, whole life being a fan of the business, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Started watching when I was probably around 13, 14. I think 2003 was when I really got into it. I remember I must have started watching soon after WrestleMania 18 because the Hulk Hogan Triple H feud that they had just after that Mania is my first like memories of being a fan of watching. And then Mania 19 was like the first Mania that I experienced as a fan. So I was a bit of a late bloomer though compared to all my friends at school. They'd sort of hit that point where they were growing out of wrestling and moving on and going, oh no, that stuff's all lame, we don't care about that anymore. But I was like, come on guys, can we still talk wrestling? They're like, no, man, give it up. Stop being lame. But no, I stuck with it.
But still, dude, that's pretty amazing because, like, you know, you got into wrestling in '03 when like Hogan was having a feud. I got into wrestling probably 20 years earlier
Yeah,
when Hogan was still getting into a feud. So,
yeah,
same in a lot of ways, just 20-something year difference.
yeah. I know, I know. It's funny how like those early memories of when you first watch it stick with you forever. I mean, Mania 19 is probably still my personal favorite Mania, just because it was the first that I saw.
Dude, I remember I was having a conversation with someone. I said, like, what was the one thing that got you into wrestling as like a fan or whatever? And the person goes, well, the first thing that I saw in wrestling just really hooked me. It was the greatest thing ever. It was the debut of Nexus. And I'm like, fuck, I feel old. Like, I was like, I'm
Yeah.
30 then. I was
Yep,
like,
that's making me
I
feel
was
old
close,
too.
I was close to 30 then. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah. I've had moments like that where people tell me about, I think the other week someone was telling me that the Daniel Bryan WrestleMania 30 main event was like their first big mania that they experienced. I'm like, man, that was like yesterday to me. Like I'd been a fan for decades, but at that point, I,
did,
yeah, I'm
did you
old
ever
and decrepit.
did you ever watch Tough Enough?
Not a lot of it, no.
There's a scene in Tough Enough where like Stone Cold asks each contestant what
Oh,
they love about wrestling and what's the thing that's like the greatest thing in wrestling, and someone goes, Alicia Fox first Paulina in a
yes,
panties match.
I have heard of that infamous one. Yes.
But, but the thing is, you just see Stone Cold Steve Austin just going, like the soul just leaving him, just going like
The massive cringe. Like I busted my ass for decades for this, for someone
broken
to
neck.
have that as their favorite match of all time.
I think if you're in that situation, you just bullshit and go Stone Cold versus Rock
Oh
WrestleMania.
yeah, 100%. You got to blow the smoke up his ass and make him feel valued. Get a few brownie points along the way.
Oh, exactly. All right. So, big fan of wrestling. What was the main thing that got you when, you know what, I'm going to go and I'm going to try this? I'm going to go from being fan to performer.
Yeah, it was a personal confidence thing. So I'm hardly the most picturesque athletic person on the planet, but years ago that was less of the case than it is now. But throughout 2016, 17, I got my ass into shape a fair bit. So that sort of gave me the confidence that maybe I could give this wrestling stuff a crack. I'm still not a specimen of a man, but it's now or never. I'm not getting any younger, so did the old Google search and wrestling schools in Sydney, and PWA popped up, and they had a tryout coming up within the month. So I sent off the email, said, "Yep, come down, have a tryout," and just walked in cold. Didn't know anyone who was there, and got stuck in and made it through.
Had you followed like the Australian scene, or were you like, holy shit, there's wrestling in
Oh,
Australia?
yeah, I was more like the holy shit. There's wrestling in Australia. I knew very little about the Australian scene. I didn't know who Robbie Eagles was. Didn't know who Madison Eagles was. Didn't know Jack Bonza. Didn't know any of these guys. I learned on the fly as I was getting into it.
You know what, a lot of people said the same thing. Like I had Gavin McGavin on the other week, and he said the exact same. He goes, I walked in, I was like, what the fuck is it? Like he couldn't believe it. He's like, I thought, yeah, I'll just come and do a couple little training sessions here, then go off to the US and really get trained. He's like, but you walk in, you go, wow, this is world class. Very much like PWA as well. Were you surprised? Like, were you going in there thinking, oh, I wonder like how this is going to be, and then seeing what PWA is, which is an incredible place for a training ground for people, future stars and stars that we're seeing currently. Like, was that sort of like, was your expectation going in there? Like, where was that at?
I didn't really have too many preconceived expectations of what it was going to be, but I knew that the training culture around wrestling was kind of like, I guess, the military drilling style, where it's like, yes, sir, no, sir, do as you're told. Don't have an ego about you. Just, give it all you've got and try your best. So it ended up being a little bit different what I expected. Like a lot of the basic fundamentals they teach you in core class when you first turn up, all of the rolling and the bumping and learning the basic movements of wrestling. Wasn't quite what I expected. It was more like basic gymnastics sort of stuff, it felt like at the time. But in hindsight now, it makes 100% sense of why you need to learn those things, so you're not hurting yourself and you're not hurting other people in the ring. I never expected to be throwing, body slams and choke slams and shooting star presses on day one. But, that learning the basics phase probably stretched out a little longer than I would have imagined. But, a lot of that was because I was missing half the classes doing an MBA at the same time. But, I kept positive about it. I had no chip on my shoulder thinking that, I'm not learning the cool stuff that I thought I'd be learning. I just stuck with it and eventually got all the way through.
Well, the cool shit comes, right? Like, I think
Yeah.
it's like anything. You've got to have patience. You can't sort of,
Yeah.
be this world-class athlete, but never
Yeah.
train in your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
you've got to prove to the coaches and everyone else that you're capable of, doing the cool shit. Otherwise, it's unsafe for you, it's unsafe for the person you're working with, and it's unsafe for everybody. And it doesn't make for a good match if they put you on shows and you're completely untrained. So, I had full confidence that if they told me I wasn't ready to do any of the cool shit, then I wasn't ready to do the cool shit. So,
yeah.
when
But
the time came,
I think that's a good mentality to have, though. Like, because I'm assuming there'd be a lot of people that go into pro wrestling schools going, "Yeah, I'm just going to do a 450 off the top rope. I just want to hit a rock bottom, hit a
yeah,
stunt, and then I'm just going to go off to WWE next week, right? Just
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably like a good month or 2 months before I actually even got to step into the ring for the first time. It was just doing all training on the mats on the outside, learning your roles before you even, I guess, earn that right to get into the ring. So, yeah, you've got to temper your expectations. You can't walk in thinking you're going to be superstar on day one.
No, not at all. What was it like, the first time getting in a wrestling ring for you? Was it like, holy shit?
Oh, I still very clearly remember the first time I stepped into the ring. It was at the end of a session. So I'd been doing, stuff with the fellow beginners on the outside on the mats. And then right at the end, we were doing this pinning drill where one person's in the ring in the center and everyone's around them in a circle, taking turns one by one, pinning them, getting kicked out. And then the next person comes in, pins them, whatever. And they were already halfway through this drill when they said, okay, you beginner guys, go join the people in the ring. And it was like, oh, quick, you got to go join the line of people going around in a circle. I'm like, hang on, I've never stepped in the ring before. How do I get up on the apron? How do I step through? And then like jumped up, tripped on the apron, stepped through the ropes, hooked my foot on the rope as I stepped through and tripped over on the way in, and then quickly joined this line and then started doing the pinning stuff. And yeah, that was my very first experience stepping into the ring.
It's funny because like a lot of people don't realize how to get in and out of a wrestling ring, and it's like it's so easy to trip yourself up if you are doing it properly.
I still get it wrong at the Metro Rumble. I still got it wrong. I nearly ate shit when I stepped through the rope because I stepped over with my foot hanging backwards too far and hooked my toe on the rope as I stepped through. But luckily, I didn't fall over completely and embarrass myself. But anyone paying attention would have saw that little moment where I was like, "Oh no, don't fall over."
Dude, I did ring announcing for AWE, and on the first show that I ever did ring announcing for them, I tripped up while getting into the ring. And it was like, getting in their ring, I was like, every time I was like, yep, there's my nuts. Okay, let me go. So
it's
like
not the most graceful thing to do, is it?
It really isn't. And that's why, because like you see people do it on TV and people who have obviously done it for years, and it's like, man, like, why do I not look that graceful when I fucking get in a ring? But it's funny, man. Like I said, a lot of people don't realize how fucking difficult it is just to get in the fucking ring.
Yeah, I know.
Literally get in the ring.
Yeah, that's the first test. Like you're pretty dead in the water as a character if you fall over for this thing. What's the guy, the shock master? If that's your first impression on the audience, then you're pretty dead from there, aren't you?
Exactly. The mask comes off and you're pretty fucked. But
yep.
As far as like, where starting out as a green dingo, like what was that process like? When do you actually go from being like a trainee who's like, okay, now you're a green dingo, which I kind of like it is like a young boy or like the Japanese style, like
I think it's pretty much it's pretty much our spin on the young lions gimmick from New Japan. I think Robbie's kind of the spearhead behind getting that whole program up and running. These days it's more like, you've been training for a while, and then we do a grading to see if you're ready to progress from, advanced level training to performing on shows level, and they'll throw in the green dingoes. But for me, being the first group of Green Dingoes, it was a little different. I was still in the intermediate class at the time, and then they came to me and said, "Oh, we're going to start doing these academy shows with a focus on younger guys, and we need this troop of young boys. We're going to call the Green Dingoes, and you're going to be one of them. So start coming on Wednesday nights and do the advanced class, and you're going to be debuting in less than a month." I was like, "Oh crap! I wasn't expecting that anytime soon." But okay, I've got to learn how to not be terrible at wrestling in the next 4 weeks, and hope it all goes well.
Did you think you weren't ready?
At the time, no, because it development wise, because doing that.
David Streamer just having connection issues, guys, but please make sure you go and check out healthvape.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. But we are back with Mr. David fucking Streamer, ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry about that. These internet problems, hey? Okay, so where was I? Was I ready? Yeah, it took me a full year to go from beginners to intermediate, because I was missing a lot with lectures for the NBA clashing with wrestling class nights, and then I was probably only in the intermediate class for like about 6 to 9 months before they announced, you're going to the advanced class and you're going to be debuting. So I figured I was still probably another 3 months or at least away from being able to go to the advanced class, and then another like year or so from that before I was ready to debut. But it came a lot quicker than what I envisaged it would be in my head. So I just had to sort of, buckle up and get with the program.
But 2 years in training, man, and not being on shows, like I think, I think people progress how they progress. And I think it's cool that PWA doesn't rush that, and they kind of know when someone's ready to then go to the next level. The Green Dingoes, were you guys the first batch of Green Dingoes?
Yeah, so it was me, Skater Boy Pidgey, and Cherry Stevens. We were the first 3 Green Dingoes to debut on that first academy show that we did.
Yeah, wow. And how did you, like, when they were telling you, it was like, yeah, you're going to debut as a Green Dingo, were you like, fuck, what's a Green Dingo? Like, or were you like, all right, well, look, everyone, this is where you start, and you just go from there?
No, I was surprised and excited, first of all, that they wanted me to debut at that point, because, as I said, I didn't think I was at the point of being ready. But doing the Dingo stuff was probably a good way to start out, because it's a way to debut without any pressure of expectation. People know that you're the young boy, you're brand new at this. They know you're just out there doing the basics and getting used to working in front of an audience. So the way I explain it to people who are outside of wrestling and don't understand it, I explain that it's the Green Dingoes are our equivalent of the McDonald's workers trainee badge, saying I'm brand new, don't have huge expectations of me, but I'm trying my best, so please just stick with me.
I'll get you a cheeseburger. It might not have a pickle, but it'll be a fucking cheese.
Exactly, and there were no pickles on my cheeseburgers in those early Dingo matches, let me tell you. So yeah, I found it a very good way to debut and learn the ropes of wrestling in front of a crowd and get the basics and the fundamentals right on a show, without the pressure of also having to be a character and remain in character for the entire duration.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's a good way to sort of get a wrestler on show and probably in front of crowds. And like, I suppose if you went in there with your current gimmick and you burned that out in front of the audience, there's kind of no way to go back a lot of the times once you sort of burnt that character with the audience, right?
Yeah, exactly. You've always got to be moving forwards and developing rather than staying the same and becoming stale. So yeah, I definitely would have rather save the character until I'm confident enough in what I'm doing in the ring, rather than go out there and botch everything and lose all my credibility as this strategic thinking businessman if he can't even hit a suplex properly.
Oh, 100%. When the moment came for you to be like, okay, I'm going to now go from Green Dingo David Streamer to the executive David Streamer, When did that? Who came to you and sort of sat down and said, "Hey, we're going to change up. You're no longer a green dingo. You're going to have your own gimmick." Were you told like, "All right, go come up with an idea, bring it to us in a week or a month"? Like, how did that progression start?
Well, it was a long-term progression because with all the promo classes where we're testing out our character ideas and doing practice promos, everyone already had a good feel for the character I was going for and what it was going to be. So there was already that confidence that they knew I had a character. And then before we debuted it on PWA, we had a grading night at training where they put you through your paces to see if you're ready to move from beginners to intermediate or intermediate to advanced or advanced to being on shows. And then the level we're at was, are we ready to graduate from dingoes into doing gimmicks? So me and Pidgey had a match against each other at that training to see if we could graduate from the dingoes, and we put on a banger. Good enough for them to say, "Yep, cool, that's good enough. Good character work, good fundamentals in the ring. So you guys are ready to not be dingoes anymore and go try your gimmicks out on shows."
But how is that, having like a training match in front of like all of your coaches, all of your training partners? Yeah, again, like I said about like cutting a promo in front of like your trainers and your peers, having a match, like, is that just as nerve-wracking doing a promo in front of them as it would be like, or more nerve-wracking in front of a
it was very nerve-wracking, but also very fun at the same time. I think the most nerve-wracking bit was planning the match and making sure we got all of our stuff in there that we were good at and we could show off our best side. But once the bell rang at training and we were in there, all the fellow trainees in the crowd were just fully into it. You're going to have no more supportive crowd than your fellow trainees at training. They're all the biggest marks out of anyone because they're fellow wrestlers. So they're highly supportive of what we were doing. They were popping big for all of the spots that we had, and so once we were out there, we stuck to the plan, and everything got a good reaction to it. So went over positive.
And when you started debuting the show, like you mentioned, you debuted at a show on the Who, Newey Pro on one of the Who shows, and then followed up on the PWA graduation day show. When you went to then going to like the Black Label show, which is probably a much larger scale, what was the feeling of then going, okay, I'm going from Green Label now to Black Label? What was the thought around it? What was the nerves like, and how did you deal with that on the day of the big
well, the nerves weren't too bad because I knew I didn't have to do much on my Black Label debut because it was in the Metro Rumble. So I was a last minute COVID call up because a couple of the interstaters got COVID and couldn't make the trip down. So I got one of their spots in the Rumble, and then I asked, "What am I doing?" And it was just you're coming out number 4. Matt Rogers will be in there and hit a couple of little things, and then he's going to turf you out before number 5 comes out. I'm like, cool, 60 seconds, I can manage that, no pressure. So that was probably a good way to introduce Black Label level audiences to me, where I had such a small role to play that I didn't have to fret about it too much, and I just had to go out there and do it. I think the second time was the 4-way we did, which was probably a lot more nerve-wracking because multi-man matches are always a bit more complex to plan out than a simple singles match. So being in a full-length match with so many moving parts was probably a lot more nerve-wracking to me to put my best foot forward on a Black Label than the Metro Rumble was.
But debuting on the Black Label at the fucking Metro is pretty big, dude. That's a cool thing to say. Yeah, that's a
100%. Like, I was still absolutely chuffed to get that big debut in the Rumble in front of, what was it, 400 plus people, 500 people that we had there. So that was a huge feather in the cap that was my first introduction to the Black Label audience in front of that many people on that big stage.
So when you got into wrestling, you've done your training, you're now on the main level. What was the main reason for you to get into pro wrestling, though? Like, we know, like, how you transitioned into it, but you sound like you're very career driven in your shoot world. Is pro wrestling like something you want to chase as just like a livelihood? Is this something you want to go overseas and do, or is this like, you know what, like this is a cool hobby for me to do, I'm going to continue to do it while continuing my career over here?
It's probably more on the cool hobby side for me rather than chasing it as a career. Not to knock anyone who does it as a career, but the whole starving artist lifestyle doesn't really appeal to me, because people spend years and years grinding away, working in the indies, not making any money out of it, sleeping on couches, just hoping that one day their dream's going to pan out for them. And that's the level of commitment you need if you're going to make it that big. And all power to everyone who does go through all that. But I'm not one of those people who's able to be that committed. I'd rather have a successful 9-to-5 job and be able to provide for myself and live a comfortable lifestyle than bang my body up and have a high likelihood I'll never make it. Because for every big success story you have of people who've grinded away for years on the indies and finally get that big break, there's probably 100 more who never did get that big break opportunity. So
yeah,
in terms of your risk management, it's a very risky thing to go all in on a wrestling career and shoot for the stars, but that's what it takes if you're going to make it. But if by some miracle they Hunter came calling me tomorrow and goes, "Hey kid, want to come over to developmental?" I'd go, "Okay, yeah, sure, I could do that." But that's never going to happen because I don't have that level of commitment that everyone else does. So yeah, never say never, but at this stage it's more of a cool side hobby for me.
Sure. It's interesting that you mentioned developmental, because I watch NXT quite regularly, and I saw a character that was very similar to something that I've seen on a PWA show.
Is this the girl in the women's breakout tournaments? Kiana James, I think her name was.
Yeah, Kiana James. Yeah,
I saw her and I thought, okay, you're going for the similar business vibe, but not as a knock to her, but it didn't really seem to have a lot of depth to it. It was just like, I'm gonna wear a pencil skirt and wear some glasses, and I need to sound smart, so I'm gonna throw one or two business words out there and see what happens. Whereas I'm fully immersed in the whole business. I've got the bloody degree on the wall behind me, so I live the gimmick, brother. I live the gimmick. I live the gimmick. She doesn't.
I got the same feeling when I saw her. I was just like, oh, okay, this is just someone pretending they're a pink Power Ranger right now. Like, this is not like, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't that. This is someone trying to act like they're a business person, not someone who has like a business. You can kind of tell that if you've worked in business, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, not to knock on what anyone else is doing, but it's fairly obvious that it's just a character idea, and maybe it'll stick, maybe it all won't. But all power to her. Keep on doing what you're doing and see what works.
Do you think that was borrowed? Like any of it may have been borrowed from your gimmick? Because I know you did earlier. Like,
we have a bit of a running joke that Matty Wahlberg's over there now as Grayson Waller, and he must be feeding them all of our ideas because we've got Skater Boy Pidgey and Cora Jade both coming out on skateboards. There's one or two other things where we've noticed a bit of a similarity here. You go, surely he's feeding them insider information, or he's getting them watching all the PWA stuff. But in reality, probably not. I mean, everything in wrestling is derivative. Every character has to be quickly identifiable and has to, I guess, fit in a stereotype so that fans can go, oh yeah, I know who that person is and what the vibe of their character is. So everything ends up being inspired by movies, music, pop culture, things that people have done in wrestling beforehand. So it's never a surprise that two people manage to come up with a similar idea independently of each other.
Oh, 100%. But one of the things, like, for you, what was it that drew you to pro wrestling? You know what I mean? Like, some people it's like the physicality of it. Some people it's the showmanship. It's the promos, the characters. What was it for you that really drew you into it?
It's probably the promos and the showmanship that got me into it. You know, I say sometimes that wrestling appeals to, like, you know, the kids like me who are bullied at school, you know, a bit overweight, that it's the ultimate power fantasy. You see these guys out there looking like superheroes, talking a big game, and then beating each other up and looking real flashy whilst doing it with grand entrances and fireworks going off left and right. It's sort of, for the kids who aren't popular at school, it appeals to them. They're like, yeah, that's cool. I like this guy. I want to be one of them one day. That's probably where the appeal comes from. Most people aren't stupid enough to actually give it a go, but I was, and here we are.
Man, like I think that's, there's different reasons why people get into it, but I was the same way. Like, I was big on promos and stuff like that. But for you, what was the, like, obviously the character style of it, where was the character developing for you, as far as, like, were you looking at any past performers and, like, trying to get ideas from someone who did similar gimmicks in the past or the history of wrestling?
Not so much. I try to not be a carbon copy of what's come beforehand. I try to just be myself, adapt all the business stuff that I've learned in real life at the business school, and whatever inspires me in day to day, I'll adapt that into the character. If I get someone at work sending me a stupid email, then I'll cut a promo about idiots who can't send emails or write grammar properly in their emails and their unprofessional standards. So I try to be cognizant of not looking at what other people are doing and copying it, past or present. In fact, I kind of have to consciously avoid what other people are doing, because I know, like Newbie Pro's got Shane Sheffield Sinclair, who's also business money driven, but he's more about being the rich billionaire silver spoon fed, whereas I try very much to be the middle manager who everyone hates at work in their 9-to-5 job, rather than just walking around flashing cash and going like, oh, I've got Lamborghinis and Bentleys and a massive yacht on the weekends.
I feel like this gimmick for you is just a good way to vent your frustrations from
100%. 100%. This is just an amalgamation of all of my frustrations in my 9-to-5 job that I just vent and take out on all the fans, just to stick it there, make them feel the pain that I've felt for the last week. You can share in my misery.
Have you ever like had any work colleagues come to a show and, like, they've seen this? What?
No. I have told no one at work that I do wrestling. Absolutely no one.
Really?
Yeah, no one at work knows that I train, that I perform. I had a close encounter once where a trainee who no longer trained with us ended up in the same building as me, because they work adjacent to the company that I work with. Got in the lift one day and they're like, "Oi, streamer, how's the wrestling going?" And I, like, eyes shot wide open. I was like, "What? Who's that?" No one here knows I wrestle. And I turned around, it was this person who used to train with us, and luckily there was no one else in the lift at the time. So I was like, "Oh yeah, it's going all right. Yeah, let's wrap up this conversation quick before the lift doors open and my boss gets in." But
what do you think would happen if, like, your work colleagues and employer found out what you were doing on the weekend?
Oh, I think they'd have a good laugh about it. Like, they know I'm into wrestling, because I took leave from work to go to WrestleMania one year, so they know I love it and I'm into it.
That's awesome.
We have the odd conversation about it when something pops up in the headlines. I'll be like, "Oh, I saw this happen in the wrestling." We'll have a chat. But yeah, I haven't been bold enough to tell them that I actually wrestle, just because maybe now that I'm at a black label point and I have confidence in what I'm doing, I'll be like, "Hey, maybe come down and watch me," and they might. They might not.
How do you think the gimmick will go over with work people?
I think they'd probably love it, because if I knew some work people were coming to a show, I'd try and sprinkle in something from that week's events subtly that they would understand as an inside joke and they could have a good laugh about.
Yeah, I mean, like you should get yourself a valet and call her Karen from accounting or something.
Oh,
Like,
Karen is the name of my secretary that I'm going to hire at one point. I've got like 2 or 3 different people have said, "Can I be your secretary?" And one day we're going to have a face-off to see who's finally going to be my secretary.
I reckon that would be pretty cool. That would be pretty fucking cool to do. But you know, as far as yourself, like, you know, what goals do you have for your wrestling career?
I don't really have, massive goals. Like I said, I'm not out there to move to America and get signed or have anything myself. I just want to keep having fun with it and enjoy what I'm doing. Maybe short-term goal is, keep appearing on Black Label shows because, I've only done 2 at this point. I can't count my chickens and expect that I'm going to be on every Black Label show because there's a lot of competition out there for spots. So short term, I need to, I guess, solidify my role and have a distinguishable enough character that people want to see me on every show rather than other people. But once I hit that point, then I don't know, maybe start looking at what championships are around. I might be able to go for down the line, but that's definitely long term thinking. That's not going to happen anytime within the next few years, I don't think.
Are you planning on like branching out, wrestling for other promotions as well?
Yeah, a little bit. I've done some Newey Pro stuff. I'm going to be in the Newey Pro Rumble this coming Friday.
Hey,
so
there you
if
go.
anyone up in Newcastle wants to come down, see me in the Rumble. I believe I'll be doing an FWA in August. So that'll be my first time outing for FWA. And just last Saturday, I did a show in Perth with EPW, Explosive Pro Wrestling over in Perth. They ran a winter boot camp. So I was there 5 days, Monday to Friday, all day doing drills and training with a mixture of people from all over Australia. And then at the end of the week, we put on a showcase for, all of the people there to show what we've learned throughout the week. And yeah, that was my debut for EBW over there.
That's awesome, man. How was that like that whole week? Because that was pretty cool. I saw a lot of social media.
Yeah, that was a really great week. David Storm and Slater are fantastic coaches to learn from. Mikey Broderick as well, and Gavin McGavin. Poor Gavin, he got COVID and wasn't able to make an appearance till the last day of camp. But the one session we had with him on the Friday was also very good. But yeah, going there, learning from some of the bests. Also a good way to sort of get some different minds and opinions on what you're doing rather than just your own coaches back at PWA. And also meet the wider Australian wrestling community. You get sick of the same people at the PWA Academy week after week after week after week, but seeing some other people who from Melbourne, Queensland, Adelaide, all over the country and seeing what they bring to the table is definitely a eye-opening experience and a good way to, I guess, network and meet some people and maybe find a way to get yourself on shows interstate one day. The way I explain this to people who didn't understand wrestling was it's just basically a conference for wrestling. You go there and you meet people in network and attend some workshops and learn some new skills. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we understand that now.
Then the rest of the time drink piss.
Yeah, there wasn't too much piss drinking. I don't drink piss. I'm a complete teetotaler, so I'm boring as hell. But yeah, it was a good week of solid hard work.
Yeah, dude. Like, were you guys like training all day, like for 5 days straight, or was it like
it was 6 hours a day? So we broke it into 2 sessions, like a 10 till 1, and then a 2 till 5 training session, each with a different focus on whatever the theme of that session was. And then if you wanted, you could stay back and do the night training with the regular EPW trainees, which we only did once because you've only got so much gas in the tank for the whole week.
Fucked 6 hours a day.
Yeah, you're pretty tired. By the end of it, the body was a bit sore, but we survived, made it through, and luckily did well enough to get a spot on the showcase at the end of the week.
Yeah, and how did you feel like you fared in that match?
Oh, pretty well. I got to wrestle the debut match of the Tuck Man, who's one of our fellow PW trainees who came over with us. Yeah, he did fantastically well for his very first match in front of a proper crowd and he worked in a gimmick. He didn't do any dingo level stuff. He just came out as a interesting character, which played off really well against my character. As far as the work I've done, and I think what I did last Saturday might have been the strongest appearance I've done in terms of my character and getting it over and being a real arrogant business dickhead. And the Tuck Man was able to match it. He was able to, come up to that level and even surpass it and get over big. So I'm very pleased with what we did. We got good feedback from the EPW coaches, good feedback from the fans. They said, yeah, it was probably one of the best matches of the night on the card. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very proud of what we did over there.
That is absolutely amazing, dude. Reese Angel in the house. Smashed it, mate.
Oh, so did Reese. Reese was there with it. Oh, by the way, happy birthday, Reese. It's his birthday today.
Happy birthday to Reese. Round of applause to Reese Angel.
Round of applause. Good on you, Reese. Love you, baby. Yeah, Reese was there too. He also killed it. Also had a fantastic match with Lucas Fantasia. All of the PWA guys who went over absolutely smashed it. Nicky Van Blair, big main event superstar now. He main evented that show.
Really?
Everyone loved Nicky's character, that show. The whole week, everyone pointed to him as the example of how to stand out and how to be unique and how to just be yourself and get over. And yeah, Nicky was an absolute standout.
Nicky's great. Nicky is an absolute amazing person and a great performer as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so we had Nicky, we had Reese, the Tuck Man, myself, and also Victor Langers. He's one of our trainees who's yet to debut as a Green Dingo or anything else, but he also had an outing with a match and did exceptionally well for himself there against Big Sam Cannon, a Queenslander, Northern Queenslander. So yeah, he made a good account for himself too. Very proud of everything that the PWA guys did over in Perth.
Jeez, man, this sounded like the Australian Pro Wrestling Conference or some shit.
Well, that's what it is. I said it was basically a conference for pro wrestling. So yeah.
But you know what? It's a cool concept like that they've done. Like it'd be pretty cool for like every year a promotion to do it. Like City in it or like Wrestle Rampage or like what I mean, or PWA or what I mean, like
it's a great thing to do. EPW is doing another one in January. I think they've got it penciled in for January. So if anyone out there is watching and is keen to have a similar experience, then keep your eyes open for that. PWA has done similar things in the past with bringing over Mike Quackenbush for a week and doing a whole week's worth of training under him. So yeah, these things are a great way to just squeeze in a lot of learning into a short space of time, meet a lot of new people who you wouldn't normally meet, work against people who you wouldn't normally work against, and just meet a lot of new friends and connections throughout the wrestling business.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how the wrestling industry is now compared to what it used to be, where it's very much like a team atmosphere. Everyone's trying to build each other up, which I think is great for the business as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to get everyone on the same page to just build the industry. And I guess it's like that for every industry. You want to grow the size of the pie so that everyone can have a bigger slice rather than one person just trying to take a bigger slice away from a small pie than everyone else.
Yeah, 100% agree. But it is that time of the show.
Hey.
It is time for 60 Seconds with Piers. Ladies and gentlemen.
You've had me for 50 minutes. You want another 60 seconds? What is this? My time is money, Piers.
Hey, man, this is my performance appraisal, man. I've got to make sure I do all my good shit, right?
Just don't ask for a pay rise, all right? Because inflation's pretty strong at the moment. All our suppliers.
Thanks, boss. But guys, if you are tuning in for the first time, how 60 Seconds with Piers works is I'm going to start firing off a bunch of fucking questions to Mr. David Streamer. He's got 60 seconds to answer as many questions as he possibly can. Mr. Streamer, you ready to get this clock started?
Start the clock, Piers. Let's go.
Oh, shit. I'm not ready.
Black mark in the performance appraisal already.
All right, you give me down. You ready?
Yep, I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, let's go. Gold class or VMAX at the movies?
Neither. I'd rather stay home and watch it on my big screen.
Fair enough. Best subject in school?
Ooh, Indonesian. I loved Indonesian language.
Which reality show would you rather appear on? Survivor or Jersey Shore?
Put a bullet in my head, please.
MasterChef or My Kitchen Rules?
Oh, neither. Reality TV, no, none of it.
If you had to describe yourself in 3 words, what would they be?
Jeez. Awesome, excellent, and amazing.
You have 24 hours to spend $2 million. How are you spending it?
Oh, maybe a nice Lamborghini or Ferrari or whatever hot car's going at the moment.
What is the shittest gift you have ever given someone?
Oof. Probably like a book or a DVD they had no interest in reading or watching. I don't know.
What is the shittest gift you have ever received?
Oh. Sorry, Mum, but that Christmas you gave me a pie maker. Like, I am not a chef or a cook of any description. And he's like, oh, yeah, you can make yourself some lovely pies. I'm like, yeah, thanks. Never used it once.
And last one, in 5 minutes' time, you're being shipped to outer space. What 2 personal belongings do you take with you, excluding human beings?
Ooh. Probably my phone, because that's an entertainment thing.
We got phone and entertainment thing at the end. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been 60 Seconds with Piers, with David Streamer, the executive. David, where can everyone find you on social media? Where can everyone go and follow you, support you, and all that good stuff?
You can find me on Twitter. It's at @DStreamroller, and that's about the only social media I use. I'm very much a millennial boomer in the fact that I don't do social media much. So you might see the rare post from me if there's a match coming up. I'll put something on Twitter, but yeah, that's the only socials I use. And just keep an eye out for me on PWA and see what's coming up next.
There you go, guys. Make sure you go give David Streamer a follow on Twitter. Make sure you keep an eye out on the Twitter machine.
Yes.
Make sure you keep an eye out for him appearing on PWA shows, as well as FWA shows coming up, and also some Newy Pro shows. Guys, again, huge shout out to our sponsors, healthvape.com and sleeps.com, for their continual support and sponsoring this podcast every single week. Use the promo codes MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Again, guys, Friday night, I'm going to be sitting down and I'm going to make a statement on what's going to be happening with the MWA Podcast Network, what is going to be happening with myself as Shooting the Shit Uncensored. If you've been a fan of this podcast, you are not going to want to miss on 9 p.m. on Friday night. So, guys, please make sure you tune the fuck in. But David, thank you again for being an amazing guest. It's been a great time having you on. Definitely want to get you on for a part 2 somewhere down the line as soon as we can.
Oh, I'd absolutely love to, Piers. This was a lot of fun. Thank you very much for having me on and getting my name out there. So yeah, let's do it again sometime.
Anytime, brother. Till next time, guys. We'll see you again. Take care. All the best. Peace.